Today's episode focuses on 3 theories in the pursuit of happiness and which one is the most effective. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Live Mindfully with Laurie Moore, the podcast that invites us all to slow down and take a deep breath so that we can, so that we have half a chance to show up as our best, most highest selves, and not just for the people around us and not just for the people we love, but for ourselves. I've started watching, not yet finished, the Nyad documentary on Netflix, and I first came across Diana Nyad when I was going through a phase earlier in the year of watching one TED Talk a day. And for those of you who don't know, Diana became the first, and as far as I'm aware, the only person to complete the 177-kilometer swim from Cuba to Florida without the aid of a shark tank, and she did it at age 64, and it took 52 hours of swimming. Now, according to the Netflix documentary, the idea came to her after she read a Mary Oliver poem titled The Summer Day. When she was going through her deceased mother's things, Diana had attempted the swim when she was 28 and had failed and went into retirement and never swam again. But this poem lit something inside of her. And I'm going to share the poem with you. I'm going to read it out now. And if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead. Here it is. Mary Oliver, The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I have no recollection of ever hearing of this poem before, and apparently from the very limited research I have done online, it is one of Mary's famous poems, especially those last 2 lines. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? But I feel like this whole poem is the epitome of living a mindful life. Like I said, I haven't researched it, so I don't know anything about the poem. But to me, this poem speaks to slowing down, speaks to finding time in your life to ask yourself those big life questions. What are you doing with your one wild and precious life? This is the reminder to get back on course. If you have found yourself floating off course, to check in, to really question, what is your plan? What do you want for yourself? And this isn't necessarily about your career or some big goal you have to accomplish. This is about taking time to check in and see if you are happy. Truly happy, authentically happy. Now, a million years ago when I was 23, I had a psychologist tell me that happiness didn't exist, that it was something I couldn't achieve, and that the sooner I could grasp that concept, the easier it would be for me to let go. And that comment, it's bugged me for a long time because I do think happiness exists. And perhaps and more likely she was saying that happiness is a fleeting state and I can't be in that state all the time. And I at the time, I don't recall questioning her. And of course, it was a long time ago, so maybe even my memory of that has faded. But I often wonder if this is one of the reasons I headed down the path that I am now on, the one of yoga and mindful living and in search of that state of balance and harmony. And the truth is that I do think happiness exists, and I do think it is an achievable state for us all, but I don't think happiness comes in just one form. I don't think we all achieve happiness by following some well laid out roadmap. And I found an article that I have included in the show notes from the University of Pennsylvania titled Authentic Happiness. And this article reviews 3 traditional theories of happiness, and I'm going to go through them, and I want you to see which one resonates with you. The first theory is hedonism, and this theory takes on the idea that a happy life maximizes feelings of pleasure and minimizes pain, but it's based very much in the external. External things make us happy from the point of pursuing pleasure. From a psychological point of view, all human action, this is the hedonism theory, is ultimately motivated by desires for pleasure and the avoidance of pain. So as an example, Dr. Libby Weaver says that hedonism is when we buy something and we feel this buzz of happiness and we love it and it makes us so happy, or we achieve this goal that we have and we are so happy we did it. And we all do this. The problem comes when we link our feelings of genuine happiness to that external thing. And the reason that that is a problem is because of this thing called hedonic adaptation, which shows us that no matter what we buy, no matter what we achieve, we have a happiness baseline. We have a set point for happiness. So no matter how happy something external makes us, we will always fall back to our baseline. And there's no judgment here, but you might recognize yourself in hedonism. If you are always setting goals to make yourself happy, or you buy things to make yourself happy, especially when it's in the pursuit of pleasure. The second theory of happiness is desire theory, very similar to hedonism. However, they part ways because hedonism argues that pleasure over pain is the recipe for happiness, whereas desire holds that the road to happiness is paved by always getting your own way, whether it brings you pleasure or pain. So maybe you notice yourself in this, that you are really only ever happy, you only ever feel happy so long as you are getting your own way. And it's not tied to this idea of pleasure. It's tied to your goals, or just, get your goals and achievements, but also just like getting your own way, like what you desired your life to be. And again, this one is subjective, right? It's based on how you see the world and what you kind of value in the world and what you desire in the world. The third is objective list theory. And this theory places happiness outside of feeling and instead focuses on a list of truly valuable things in the real world. So it does not prescribe to the immediate feeling of happiness that we get from pleasure or from desire. Instead, it argues that we find happiness by accumulating certain things from a list of worthwhile pursuits. And such a list might include career accomplishments, friendship, freedom from disease and pain, material comforts, beauty, education, love, knowledge, good conscience, and civic spirit. which means caring about, engaging with, and contributing in some way to the well-being, enlightenment, and happiness of others. Now, according to the article, they believe authentic happiness, which is their theory, by the way, the theory of these the people who wrote The Authentic Happiness from the University of Pennsylvania. They believe, their theory is that authentic happiness comes from a blend of all three, synthesizing a pleasant life, which is the hedonism theory, with a good life, the desire theory, and a meaningful life, which is the objective list theory. Now, the reason I liked this article is because this feels like it has a similar trajectory to the realizations that I have made over the last nearly 20 years. I think for a long time, and even today, that consumerism mindset of having it all, and so long as we have the new iPhone and the big fancy house and the best of everything, I will be happy. That was a mindset that we all kind of had, and maybe we still do have that mindset. And I certainly know that feeling of wanting things to go my own way. In fact, my daughter and I had a discussion about this the other night, and she's 6, and she was really upset because I had moved a table in her room because its position was dangerous in the dark to my ankles. And she said, I just feel so sad because I am not getting my own way. And that's such an example of that desire theory, because that having that table in that position, it didn't bring her pleasure, it didn't bring her pain. It's just what she wanted. And because she wasn't getting her own way, she was now feeling that sadness. And if I had given her her own way, she would, and I know her well enough to know this, she would have immediately flipped to happy. And that would have been, she would have been like, yeah, I got my own way. Now I'm happy. And so I think we need to have a look at times when we've tied our happiness to pleasure, when we've tied our happiness to getting our own way, and that's making us inflexible. And then we really need to look to those big, important life questions. What are we doing with this one wild and precious life? And is what we're doing working for us? Is it making us overall authentically happy? And if not, what areas, particularly as they relate to that list of truly valuable things in the real world, are not in alignment for us? And we need to check ourselves and make sure we are not falling for peak moments of happiness, avoiding pain over pleasure and getting our own way as the ways in which we are attempting to attain long-lasting happiness. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to today's podcast. I hope I have given you some food for thought. As always, I would love to hear your comments. You can find me on Facebook at Live Mindfully with Laurie Moore, or Instagram at lifewithlaurie_. Have a great week contemplating life's big questions and where you lie on the happiness scale. And I'll see you again next week. Until then, take good care of yourself.